What would the perfect political party look like? At first, that sounds like a question about policies. What should the party believe? What should it promise? What should it try to change? But before any of that, there is a more basic question. Who is the party actually supposed to work for? The obvious answer is the people it wants to represent. But once a party becomes successful, a lot of other people start competing for its attention. Donors want meetings, companies want rules they can live with, unions want to protect their members, advocacy groups want their issues taken seriously, party leaders want discipline, and candidates want support. None of those groups are automatically doing anything wrong. Many of them represent real interests and may know things the party genuinely needs to hear. The problem begins when the people who are easiest to hear slowly become more important than the people the party originally claimed to represent. So if we were building a political party from scratch, I would not start by writing a perfect list of policies. I would start by asking what kind of party would be difficult to capture, difficult to control from the top, and difficult to separate from voters once it gains power. That problem begins before the party even wins an election. Before voters can choose a candidate, someone has to become a serious candidate in the first place. Campaigns need money, staff, attention, and people who know how politics works. A wealthy supporter can help one candidate become visible. A powerful organization can provide volunteers. Party leaders can decide who receives resources and who is treated like a serious contender. Support does not automatically mean control, but influence can begin before most voters are even paying attention. A candidate may look like the obvious choice, partly because the people with the most resources help make them visible first. That means a good political party should care about more than who can raise the most money or already knows the right people. It should create a real path for candidates with genuine support and useful ideas to become competitive, even if they did not begin inside a powerful network. Voters should also be able to see where that support came from. Who helped the candidate become visible? Who funded the campaign? Which organizations spent heavily to help them? Not because every form of support creates a debt, but because voters should be able to judge which relationships may still matter after the election. A party cannot represent people well if a small circle effectively decides who gets the chance to represent them. Money creates a similar problem. Political parties need it. Campaigns, staff, research, and communication all cost money. Pretending that money can simply disappear from politics would not solve anything. The deeper problem is dependence. Imagine one donor or one organization becomes so important that losing its support would seriously damage the party. Nobody has to ask for a secret favor. The party already knows the relationship matters. When that group calls, someone answers. When it strongly opposes a policy, people listen carefully. That is why influence does not always need to look like a transaction. Sometimes dependence is enough. A healthier party would spread that dependence as widely as possible. It should be able to lose the support of one donor, one company, one union, or one political network without feeling that its future depends on surrendering to them. Support should help a party compete. It should not become ownership. The same issue appears when the party starts making policy. A political party can compete. It should not become ownership. The same issue appears when the party starts making policy. A political party can compete. It should not become ownership. The same issue appears when the party starts making policy. A political party cannot simply ask what voters want and copy the answer. People disagree. Popular ideas can create serious costs. A policy can help one group while making life harder for another. So the party needs information. And some of the best information may come from organized groups. A company may understand an industry better than most politicians do. A union may understand what a new rule would mean for workers. An advocacy group may have studied one issue for years. The party should listen. The danger begins when useful expertise and privileged access become the same thing. A group should not become the default voice simply because it has someone in the room every week. It should not get more attention because it gives more money or has closer relationships with party leaders. That can shape decisions without anyone openly deciding to be corrupt. The same people keep appearing. They bring research. They build trust. Their explanation of the problem becomes familiar. Meanwhile, the people affected by the decision but unable to attend every meeting slowly disappear from the conversation. A good party would have to keep correcting for that. Not by ignoring experts or organized interests, but by asking who is missing. Who is affected but not represented here? Whose version of the problem are we hearing? Would this argument still receive the same attention if the person making it had no money, connections, or political usefulness to us? Those questions do not remove influence. They make it harder for influence to become invisible. then the party wins. This may be the moment when its real character becomes easiest to see. During an election, politicians need ordinary voters. They need people to show up, volunteer, donate, and care. After the election, most people go back to normal life. They work, look after families, pay bills, and stop watching politics every day. The organized groups stay. That changes the balance. The public may have been at the center during the campaign, but after the election, the people with the most time and access can move closer to the center. So the perfect party should not treat voters as important only when it needs their votes. It needs a relationship with them that continues after winning. That does not mean asking the public to decide every policy. A party still has to make difficult judgments, but when major decisions change, people should be able to understand why. Suppose a party makes a clear promise and later fails to deliver it. Sometimes that is understandable. It may not have won enough seats. Another institution may have blocked the plan. New information may have changed the situation, but sometimes the promise simply becomes inconvenient. A powerful group pushes back. Party leaders decide the issue is too risky. The political cost becomes larger than expected. From the outside, all of these situations can look the same. The promise disappears. That is why the party should not promise that it will never fail. It should promise that failure will be explainable. What changed? What stopped the plan? Did the party change its mind? What is it doing now? A direct explanation gives voters something to judge. Silence does not. This also matters inside the party itself. A political party needs some discipline. If every politician ignores the organization whenever they disagree, the party may become impossible to run. But too much discipline creates a different danger. Party leaders may control money, support, positions, and access to opportunities. A politician who challenges them can pay a real price. Imagine someone inside the party believes the leadership is making a serious mistake and many of their own voters agree. Should they stay quiet for the sake of unity? If they always obey the party, voters can become secondary. But if everyone rebels over every disagreement, the organization becomes chaos. So the goal is not a party with no discipline. It is a party where disagreement can survive. A member should be able to say that the party is wrong without automatically being treated like an enemy. Bad news should be able to move upward. Leaders should be challengeable. Because a party that cannot tolerate criticism may look united while becoming easier for a small group at the top to control. The relationship with voters has the same problem. If the party is supposed to represent people, does that mean it should always follow public opinion? No. Voters can be wrong. Popular ideas can create serious costs later. A party may genuinely believe that the most popular option is the wrong one. If that happens, it should say so. Explain the disagreement, show the reasoning, and accept that voters may reject the answer. Representation is not obedience. A party should listen seriously enough to understand what people want, then be honest enough to disagree when it believes the public is making a mistake. The voters still get to decide whether they trust that judgment. But even a party that handles candidates, money, influence, disagreement, and accountability well still faces one deeper danger: success. Imagine the party starts small because it wants to change something. It builds support, wins elections, hires staff, attracts candidates, and becomes a place where more people build careers. Eventually, the party itself becomes something worth protecting. That changes everything. At first, the party wanted power because it wanted to do something. Later, it may begin doing things mainly because it wants to keep power. That may be the hardest problem of all, because once a party becomes successful, it creates its own interests. Politicians depend on it. Staff depend on it. Consultants depend on it. Donors build relationships with it. Entire careers can become tied to the party staying important. Then compromises become easier to justify. Avoid this fight until after the election. Choose the safer candidate. Keep this supporter happy. Protect this seat. We need to win first. Sometimes those decisions are reasonable. Politics requires compromise, and a party that never thinks about winning will not achieve much. But there has to be a point where winning stops being a tool and becomes the purpose. That is the question I think the perfect party would have to keep asking. Are we still trying to win so we can do something? Or are we now doing things mainly so we can keep winning? There is no rule that answers that automatically, but patterns reveal a lot. Who keeps getting access? Which promises disappear first? Which principles are always described as too risky? Who keeps receiving what they want while everyone else is told to wait? One compromise may be necessary. A repeated pattern tells a different story. And that brings us back to the voter. How should someone judge whether a party is actually working for them? Not by slogans, not by how angry its speeches are, not by how aggressively it attacks the other side. Look at what happens after the party gains power. Do the problems it promised to address actually improve? When it fails, does it explain why? Can new candidates compete without first being approved by a small circle? Can people inside the party challenge leadership? Can voters see who has unusual influence? And when keeping power conflicts with the reason the party wanted power in the first place, which one usually wins? Political capture rarely happens in one dramatic moment. A party does not announce that it has stopped caring about ordinary people. It happens slowly. A useful relationship becomes difficult to challenge. A large source of support becomes too important to lose. One compromise feels necessary. Then another does too. Eventually, the party may still speak in the name of voters while spending more and more of its attention responding to the people best positioned to reach it. So what would the perfect political party actually look like? I do not think it would refuse to listen to donors, companies, unions, experts, or advocacy groups. All of them can have useful information and represent real interests. The better goal is a party that can hear all of them without becoming dependent on any of them. A party where serious candidates can compete without first needing the approval of a tiny circle, where major support and unusual access are visible, where disagreement does not automatically become betrayal, where broken promises need explanations, where voters still matter after Election Day, and where winning remains a way to achieve something rather than becoming the reason the organization exists. None of that creates a perfect party. Money would still matter, powerful groups would still push, leaders would still make mistakes, voters would still disagree, politicians would still care about winning. But maybe perfection is the wrong standard. Maybe the real goal is a political party that can become powerful without quietly becoming owned by the relationships that helped it get there. That may be the hardest test. A party should be able to gain power without forgetting why it wanted power in the first place. So now I want to know what rule you would add. What is the one rule you think would make a political party harder to capture or control? And if you like breaking political systems down like this and rebuilding them from scratch, subscribe. There are a lot more questions like this to test.